What up, guys? Mad Scientist 7A90 here, the MVP Shear, and we wanted to do a little shooting series here since I liked Big Rat's Shooting with the Shooter series so much that I wanted to do a little shooting series with us here. Kind of, nobody's really going to ask us to do a shooting series because we're not really that well known, but we decided we're going to do a shooting series here, kind of back and forth, ask some of the bigger questions about how we got into wrestling, favorite moments, matches, big stuff like that. With the first thing here I want to talk about is how I got into wrestling, pretty much. When I was younger, I'd probably say 4 or 5-ish, 6 or so. My dad used to watch it all the time, and I used to hate it. I used to hate watching it. He used to flip back and forth between Raw and SmackDown Raw and Nitro on Mondays, and I was just like, oh God, I don't want to watch this. Put cartoons on. God, what the hell? I did not want no part of it at all. But more and more I watched it, I eased up to it. I am a advent WWF fan. I was definitely a WWF fan. That was my favorite, The Rock and DX. But there was guys from WCW that I did enjoy seeing, like DDP, and I was an Ultimate Warrior fan when he was in WCW, which I realize now it was just terrible.
Did you enjoy his run into the ring?
Just running to the ring, just yeah, it was quite entertaining. But yeah, I blame my love for wrestling and watching it and pretty much getting that deep into it on my dad, who still watches it today. Who actually I watch more than he does, and he kind of gets annoyed when I talk about it so much, because I'm like, it's your fault. You shouldn't have done that to me.
He likes all the talk shows.
He likes, yeah. But you know what the funny thing is, he likes to make up made up rumors about wrestling that he thinks are real.
Yeah.
He thought he kept saying, dude, I'm telling you, CM Punk is Undertaker's son. And I was like, no, he is not. That is just not possible. And the one that I always make fun of him for is because he thinks Trish Stratus and Edge had the same theme song. And when Edge's theme song came on, he's like, no, he's like, you think you know me? And he's like, oh, Trish Stratus, and then Edge would run out, and he's like, what the hell? I'm like, yeah, that's 2 different theme songs. He's like, no, what? That's the same song. I'm like, no, it's not. You're an idiot. Stop talking. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it, and I'll get into how I'm deeply got into it.
We've got plenty more on this list of things.
But Mr. Shear here, how'd you get into it?
Yeah, my grandpa, bless his heart, used to always watch it, and I used to always watch it with him. It was like our bonding experience because, my dad, he was a single parent, so I had to go live with my grandparents till I was 9. And I started watching when I was like, 5 or 6, and I stopped watching when I was like 6 or 7 because Goldberg was like my favorite person. And I was watching at a time where Goldberg was never on the actual TV show. Like he would just like come out and cut promos, but he wouldn't actually like wrestle. But they would always show him jackhammering and spearing people. So I enjoyed that. And like Goldberg had this mystique about him. I don't know if this was before or after his just streak of 170.
He wasn't coming out and just doing like beating people up like in 10
I
seconds.
remember watching a Goldberg match just ever. But I liked Goldberg. I liked his like just his look, and I just thought he was just a badass. And I remember vividly the episode I stopped watching was when they threw Goldberg in jail, and the chick, like the storyline, like the chick was saying that he tried to like rape her or something, and
that's Russo.
No, yeah, and she's like, oh, he was in a blue shirt, and then she switched to like a red shirt. Like it was the stupidest fucking thing ever. But I was like, Goldberg, he had to get to the arena for whatever reason, and so they fucking let him go. And he gets to the arena, and then all the NWO beat him down and spray paint NWO on the back. I was so mad. I stopped watching wrestling over that. I stopped watching until like 6th grade. And we were best friends at the time, and you always watched it, and we always sat there at, I believe, breakfast, like after the buses like came. We had like 30 minutes before class, and just everyone would talk about it but me. And I would kind of just sit there like, this is fucking gay. But eventually I got back into it. I started watching it, and like instantly, like my favorite guy was fucking just John Cena. I remember John Cena versus Rhino for the right to Warsaw like either John Cena's gonna have his mouth washed out with soap, or Paul Heyman's gonna have his mouth washed out with soap. And I remember that was like the first time I noticed stuff like choreographed. Like when Rhino went to the top rope, I was like, he's not gonna hit that. I was like, Cena's gonna move, and he moved, and I was like, that's when I first started like realizing stuff.
Was that the
like,
D's nuts when he threw the bag of nuts at Paul Heyman?
I think that was after
the same storyline.
It was the same story. I think it was after that, because I know Cena was my favorite guy by the time he threw, and I think he threw him at Michael Cole.
Was it Michael?
I think he threw him over the announce desk.
He was rapping and saying
these nuts. But that was because I remember after John Cena washed Paul Heyman's mouth out with soap. I remember the next day calling you and was like, I got a favorite wrestler, and I was like so excited. Like my three fans. This is our next topic. Like who are we big into? My three favorite guys. Like when I got back into wrestling was John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Goldberg. Surprisingly, Goldberg was still in there because he had, I started watching late 2003. It was before Benoit won the Rumble, so it was that year before. It was like September of 2003, and like John Cena was my crack in the wrestling world. Like I just couldn't get enough of John Cena. Like I went and bought I remember the first DVD we bought. We went and bought DVDs. I bought Royal Rumble 2004 and John Cena's Word Life.
Just good start to a collection.
It was. And then I'm surprised I didn't buy the Rey Mysterio one. You actually bought that like many years later.
You know what was funny though? They had all these DVDs there, and the one we did not want to get, and I remember this for a fact. The one that we did not want to get was the ECW Rise and Fall of ECW DVD that was there. Yeah, nobody wanted to get. Neither of us wanted to get. We're like,
back then I wasn't a fan of Shawn Michaels. Like I didn't like Shawn Michaels. Like when it was like Triple H versus Chris Benoit, and they put Shawn Michaels in there, I was pissed. I didn't like Shawn Michaels, and he's my favorite guy right now. I just don't get how I'd never liked Shawn Michaels before that.
I just remember that just vividly that I had you buy me one time when we went to the mall. I had you buy me a Juggalo Championship Wrestling DVD, and I was like, dude, I do not want this ECW Rise and Fall, which turned into like my favorite wrestling documentary ever. And I ended up I had no money, and I was like, dude, you got to get this JCW.
Was this before or after you bought the Ring of Honor show?
This was before, and those goes into the story, but I'll explain, the story of this. But basically, what the JCW thing was, I pretty much talked to him.
You had no money, and we went to
none. I had no money.
We went to
Sam Goody.
Mall, Sam Goody, and he saw this, and I was like, no, I'm not buying it for you. I've bought things for you before. I never get my money back. I'm not buying this for you. And he berated me for like an hour and a half around the mall, like, bro, if you don't buy this for me, you're not a good friend. Just fuck you, bro. Like you talked me into it, and then it took you a month and a half to pay me back the money via your like food allowance that your dad gave you. You'd give me like money. $2 or $3 at a time. And I never even saw the show.
Yeah.
You sold it back before I could even see it.
That's the story of it. I watched this show, and it was so terrible. It was like one of the worst wrestling shows I'd ever seen was this JCW show. And I was like, oh, this sucks. And this was my time period where I was like, whenever I get wrestling shows, and I wish I wouldn't have done this, but time period where I would buy a wrestling show, and I would watch it, and I just would not like it, and I would sell it to like slackers. Ended up selling it to slackers, and told you like a couple days later, and you were like, you ever gonna let me watch that? And I was like, no, dude, I sold it. And you're like, what? I bought that and you didn't even let me watch it? I'm like, dude,
it's the last time I bought anything for you. I'm pretty sure.
The good thing about this story is I told myself, I said, whenever I go back to Sam Goody at the mall, I am never going to buy another random knockoff wrestling company other than WWE ever again. And I was in there, the next time I was in there, and I saw the very first Ring of Honor DVD.
It was the clipped one too. It wasn't the full show.
No, it was Era Begins.
No, yeah, but it was the RF release or whatever. It wasn't the master release, which means it only had 6 of the 8 or 9 matches, which is fine. I don't know if you know.
It had the whole card on it.
It had 6 matches on it. The whole card. It was missing like 2 matches on the card. I looked this up because you got the.
No, it was the mastered edition. I have it. It has all matches. It has because I remember specifically getting it. And what happened was I got this DVD and I was like, I got it because it had like Christopher Daniels on the cover, and I'd seen him a couple times at TNA. And I was like, okay, I'll pick this up. If this is any good, whatever, it's $10. I picked it up. I popped it in and I started watching it.
Had we seen TNA this time?
I think I did. No, I bought this in like.
I remember we used to get the magazines and you were hyped over like, you're like, dude, I just keep hearing about this AJ Styles guy. And just like AJ Styles was like your favorite wrestler before you saw any of the matches of his. Like you were hyped over AJ Styles.
But anyway,
you didn't even know. Which before we get into that, this leads into a story about when I was in Orlando I went to Universal Studios, and they had a wrestling show there, and I was really big into WWE at the time, and they were like, yeah, you can see these guys like AJ Styles and Jeff Jarrett and stuff, and I was like, fuck that, that's probably terrible. Like I didn't even go. Like I could have went to a TNA show, and I kicked myself years later because it was probably good back then.
But yeah, I didn't finish. But what I was saying was basically that I popped in this Ring of Honor show. And the first thing come on, and I was like, "Oh, this looks so bad. Oh god, it's just gonna be terrible." And what happens is the very first match, these two, I hate it. Yeah, the Christopher Street connection comes out, just two gay dudes with Allison Danger, and they're just making out in the ring and shit. I'm like, "Oh god, what did I just buy?"
Did you almost turn it off?
I was like, dude, I am not gonna watch the rest of this. But I finished the segment of the two gay dudes were making out, and I'm like, "Oh, this is terrible." And then what's it called? What was it? Dan Moff and who was it?
It wasn't BJ Whitmer.
No, it was Dan Moff and
Locke no, that's Locke.
Oh, what was their name? It was a tag team, and I can't remember off the top of my head for whatever reason. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was Dan Moff and another guy, and they came out and they were like, "This ain't no homo stuff. This is a Ring of Honor," and they just destroy these dudes.
It was the Carnage Crew, but I can't
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Carnage Crew either.
It was.
No, it's not Carnage Crew. I guarantee you it's not Carnage Crew. It's I can't remember. It was Dan Moff and another guy, and they were a tag team, and they come out and just destroy Christopher Street Connection. And this isn't, they're like, this isn't Ring of Homos. This is Ring of Honor. This is where we wrestle. And they powerbomb Allison Danger through a table and stuff, and it was great. I was like, oh man, this may be good. And then the first match on the show, actual match, come out, and it was Jay Briscoe versus Amazing Red. And I watched this, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. It was like nothing I'd seen before. And then watched the rest of the matches.
Oh, it was the Hit Squad.
The Hit Squad. There we go.
And it was Mafia and Monster Mac.
Yeah, there we go. It was when it was Dan Moff and Monster Mac, yeah. And,
I remember really liking Brian XL from this show.
Brian XL? Yeah, they had that Spot Fest with Mikey Whipwreck.
And I enjoyed the hell out of that. And then just the main event when you were like, oh, it's between this guy named Bryan Danielson, who he's not that great. He's like the worst of them. He's like this white pasty guy that does a bunch of submissions. And you're like, and it's got Christopher Danielson, who's really good. And it's got Low-Key. And when you said Low-Key, I thought like really low, like fat Japanese guy. That's what I thought like Low-Key was. Like, just it sounded like a dragon name.
But the reason for this show, I think the big reason for this show being like...
See, no, you did miss matches. Prince Nana versus Towel Boys, match number 6 on here.
Oh, well,
Michael Shane and Oz versus Spanky and this guy. I don't think you had either of those matches.
Oh, I guess not.
I'm telling you, dude, it was a bigger card.
Whatever. But the big thing what it was remembered for was Eddie Guerrero was on it. He wrestled a match against Super Crazy, and that was the reason a lot of people wanted to get it. This was when Eddie Guerrero was in his dark time. And then, watch it, and up until the time, I was like, wow, this is a really good show. And then it got to the main event, the Triple Threat. And up until that Triple Threat had been the best match I'd ever seen. I think the other match...
You were hyped. You called me. You're like, dude, this is like the best wrestling company in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember that led to me buying the Best of Paul. I think the Best of Paul London was the first ever Ring of Honor show. Ring of Honor. Yeah, it was. And then I bought the Best of Bryan Danielson. And then I didn't buy anything Ring of Honor for like the next 2 or 3 years. Neither of us did. We just kind of stopped, I think.
Yeah, I think we started buying. No, we started buying stuff in 2006.
Because I think 2006 because this was around the time we started buying again in 2006. But before that, this was around the time when we were big into TNA, and so we started watching like their weekly show because they had the weekly pay-per-views and stuff come up. And so it was like we didn't have time for Ring of Honor. Because this was back in the time when we enjoyed WWE because we were young fans and we enjoyed all wrestling. That wasn't JCW.
Yeah, anything other than JCW. But I remember, TNA. But yeah, I remember TNA being the big one I wanted to really follow in the mid 2000s because I got huge on AJ. But yeah, I definitely would say real quick here, and we'll finish off this first part of this. He mentioned the guys he was really into when he first started. When I really first got started, I really can't remember a lot of the guys that I really liked. But when I was really hot into it in the early 2000s, The Rock, the Hardys, Edge and Christian were real big on my list. Guys I really honestly I feel really
huge on Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I was too. I really felt bad because I cannot stand the guy now, Jeff Hardy. But when I was the early 2000s, I loved Jeff Hardy. He was like my favorite guy. But it is what it is. But this is the first part right here of the shooting series, guys. We're doing another part here, and we'll hit it up for you guys. So I'm the Mad Scientist, MVP Sheer, and peace out, guys. Next part's coming.